Okay, BYP responds coming at you. Okay, I'm in an interesting position right now. I just got on my news feed a new Skinwalker Ranch discussion of some new data that they just collected. They just put this up, and it is on the portal that is at Skinwalker Ranch. And I thought, interesting, I will look into this. And uh, okay, I was quite frankly somewhat surprised. Seriously. Now, as they show through their data and they show the repeatability of the experiments, all pointing toward the same place where this portal is said to be at Skinwalker Ranch, I kind of sat up and I go, there's more than one experiment here. Now you've got my serious attention. That's, in my opinion, that's pretty significant. And then at the end of the discussion, they've got Ryan Graves there and Jay Stratton, some dignitaries, to give weight to their research. But they've been looking into Skinwalker Ranch now for years, right? At the end there, they showed a data set that was just mind-boggling. There's just so much data, it just blows you away. Now, I am going to try in this video to share some clips. I have no idea if they're going to get me on a copyright claim. I'm not breaking copyright if I'm using it as a fair use, and that's what I want to do. There's a couple of items in this that I really do want to show you so that you can visually see what they're seeing, which I thought, all right, that raises the stakes for the reality here a bit more. This is no longer just willy-nilly Mickey Mouse stuff. I think these guys appear to me to be legitimately trying to be scientific, careful, and repeating the experiments so that they can focus in on what is going on at Skinwalker Ranch. I wish more UAP studies could do stuff like this in so many regards, right? So here's the deal. At the end of their presentation, they call for the use of AI into this data to simply sift through the breathtaking amount of data they've collected in this particular run of tests and experiments. They've done lidar, they've done GPS, they've done several different type GNSS, I believe it's called, several different types of analysis, and they were all apparently coming out with the same information, which was really cool. And they're saying there's so much data that we need an AI to help us analyze this. And I thought, I need an AI to look into the deep dive of the probability of what they're doing. What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? And it's not a matter, the AI came back and really surprised me. It's not a matter of what they're doing right and wrong. It's a matter of how complete they are testing it and how complete they are having independent observers perform the same experiments in order to come at a better probability that eliminates their confirmation bias. I don't get the impression that they just simply want to come to a quick conclusion that this is a portal. But on the other hand, I don't know if it points to a portal as such. So I'm going to do this commentary with a couple of their clips. If it does hit me with the copyright, I'm going to have to clip their clips. And after I edit them out, I hope I don't have to, but I'll leave a link to their video. And if I have to, I have to. It's not a big deal. I can use their transcript, which is what I'm going to do. And if I have to change their clips out, I will simply note it in words in the video that I had to edit the clip. But I will give you the link. But let's look into this, because It appears to me that there's a good potential, and it's more real than not now, that the research at Skinwalker Ranch has turned a corner into a much more sophisticated, better scientific investigation than it used to be. And I like that. I think that is the right approach. No offense to any of you if you're seance mediums, but that's not what we need at Skinwalker Ranch right now. There is a stronger way to verify if there are anomalies. The really cool thing is they have verified anomalies. That's not even a gag joke anymore. Something's going on. So let's take a look at this. This is fun. I love this kind of stuff when it can be done credibly, right? So far as I can tell, they appear to me to be trying. So I don't know everything about them, so I might be way off in la la land. Who knows?
Discovered.
I know that Pete Kelsey is anxious to share the findings from those LIDAR surveys. We've got him on video call. Hello, Pete.
Hey, guys.
Thanks for jumping on with us. Well, we're all in suspense.
Sure. We'll go to the terrestrial laser scanning first. We've got data out to the northeast, and it's probably going to look really familiar.
Yeah, Pete, I can see that there's structure all around. You can see lines off in the distance that go all the way around the triangle. So, Pete, do those lines appear looking straight up?
Travis, this is looking straight up from that terrestrial laser scan.
Oh, my goodness. So what we're seeing now is the same data that we got from the data set prior to this that suggests there's an invisible cone surrounding the triangle that the LIDAR is perceiving.
Correct.
Wow.
Yes, and now we've seen it twice.
Wow.
That's key.
A lot like some invisible barrier.
Or field.
Yeah.
Some type of, maybe a force field over the ranch.
So what in the world are we seeing here?
Earlier this year, when we first detected the huge cone, a laser beam that was projected straight up from the triangle was stopped by something that we couldn't see 2,000 feet in the air.
You really don't see that unless it's hitting some sort of mass.
The same exact height of the cone. So Brandon's suggestion of it being some kind of force field isn't crazy. But
So that's the one clip, because what my AI says about that particular situation, I will share with you in a few minutes. I want to move forward to another clip. I think I have 3 clips, just short clips. The whole program is only 12 minutes, but I don't want to take a chance of a copyright infringement. It won't be a copyright violation, it's just that they won't let me use their stuff. So hopefully that won't happen. If it does, it's good. It's okay. But I want to get this next clip to you because I want to give you the 3 different items that I thought were as well done as it could have been with the instrumentation that they have. The thing that surprised me was not only the quantity, but the quality of the instrumentation that they have and that they're using in order to try to find answers to these weird anomalies on Skinwalker Ranch. That's very cool. That's encouraging. I like this approach. I can't help it. So let me go grab this next clip, and he's just mouthing off. I will explain what he's trying to describe here with my AI. Okay, now this is the second part. This is the part I think I want. Okay.
What you're looking at here on the screen is some data that was collected in real time using a GPS tracking unit as Jim was flying his LiDAR-enabled drone through a pattern that we sometimes refer to as the in and out pattern, based on that video footage that we saw last year from the helicopter, where it appeared that something went into the mesa over here and came out of the mesa over in this area.
One of the most insane events that our team has documented was in 2022. A camera on the helicopter captured images of a UAP flying into the mesa in the east field. And then out the other side a couple seconds later as it continued right toward the triangle. Since then, Jim Royston has flown his lidar drone along that so-called in and out path numerous times and repeatedly experienced strange voids in his aerial GPS data, just like the drone was momentarily disappearing.
Is this gap in the data right here?
Down by the end point.
Yes,
So it happened again the other night?
exactly.
Yeah, I think what's important is the repeatability, because this wasn't one case you're looking at. Multiple times as we come through that area, we lose GPS. And probably 40 flights over the whole summer that we
At
did.
least, right?
Yes, we have. These are 40 instrumented drone flights where at the very least we have a GPS sensor that goes silent. And the interesting thing, I think the best way,
Is to overlay them, right?
yeah, wait till you see this.
This is cool. Look at that.
I have a few of those drone flights illustrated here, and look at the pattern that emerges.
Stunning.
Here's a wonderful example where we see repeatability. You know, what we're seeing here are repeated interruptions in data, the biggest of which is on the end point.
Yeah. And that's very close to the anomaly area that we saw in the LiDAR data.
Right.
Yeah.
The more of this stuff I see, the less I understand it.
Okay, so that is one thing, and then I want to zip over here. I'm going to skip all this because they're expressing some ideas on what they thought it could be and all. I'm going to come to the end, and then I will cover the whole thing with my own AI analysis that I had. Let's get to this part real quick and then show this.
What you're seeing here represents but a fraction of the actual data collected.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
That's incredible.
This is all of their different experiments that they have been doing on this mountain of where the UFOs disappear into it and then come back out of it. This is all their data collection.
Incredible.
That's pretty amazing.
That's a lot. But let me back away from this to give you some perspective on scope and scale. As you can see, it's almost impossible to navigate through
It's
this.
too much for a single small group of humans to go through and find all of the possible trends and connections. We have more data than you could possibly imagine about this place. It's going to require an artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithm to go through this and find trends. There's no telling what nuggets are in there.
Yep.
We're constantly seeking and
Yeah. So that's the idea. And what I want to do is I want to share, I asked my AI to do a deep dive. Now, there's a way that you can help your own AI to help you understand these kinds of things. I told it, do a deep dive, look into other investigators of Skinwalker Ranch, look into other possible experiments that have been done besides this group using LiDAR and GPS and GNSS, etc., and see if anybody else has come up with these kinds of experiences, with these kinds of data points, etc. And so my AI, I think this is the longest I've ever seen it think. It thought for close to 2 minutes. AI normally will think anywhere between, when I ask it to do a deep dive into subject, and I tell it to be exhaustive, look into everything you possibly can on this, it'll go sometimes for 40 seconds. I have had it go to 1.5 minutes. It went for 1 minute and 58 seconds on this. And I was just surprised at how long it looked into it. So it did a careful analysis. And here's what it says that I think is quite interesting and quite fun. So, and I'm going to actually share the screen here. I will read it to you with it on the screen. I think this is useful. You can follow along with me. Okay, it's got several different pictures here of Skinwalker Ranch, and this is the butte that they're talking about, and this is the triangle area, etc. This is the butte that the UFOs go in and out of. I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but anyway, this one is worth taking seriously. But I think the Skinwalker team is making one inferential jump too quickly after going through your transcript, checking the people involved, looking at the history of investigations at the ranch, and comparing their method with how serious UAP field research is now being done elsewhere. My conclusion is, I think there may be something real here. Localized instrument anomaly at the triangle. I do not think the public evidence currently establishes that it is a portal, however. And so it will explain what it means. But there is something going on with the instrument anomaly. They're not just inventing fake data to try to make Skinwalker Ranch look more impressive. And there is a fascinating middle ground between these two statements that it does go through, and this is why I personally find AI to be so useful, is when you use it as a help to investigate various claims, ideas, scientific views, mathematical theorems, astronomical discoveries, etc. It's actually very helpful. What caught my attention? The strongest part of the entire test is its repeatability. Pete Kelsey, now that was the guy that was showing the data, reports that a terrestrial laser scan produced essentially the same apparent cone-shaped structure that an earlier data set showed. Taylor explicitly says it looked like an invisible cone surrounding the triangle, and Kelsey responded that they have now seen it twice. Then we get something potentially more important, and this is cool. Jim Royston's drone flights repeatedly lose GPS information near roughly the same region. So according to the discussion, they flew 40 instrumented flights, and it had repeated GPS interruptions, concentrated especially around the so-called in point. And then later, Bard and Eric emphasized that these aren't merely visual UFO reports. Their accumulated GPS data sets contain missing points, erroneous trajectories, positions apparently underground or inside the mesa, and disruptions during rockets, drones, and helicopters. That's the part I'd like to investigate. Not a wormhole. Why are geographically clustered instrumentation failures occurring? That would be fun to see what's happening. And that is a perfectly legitimate scientific question, and apparently because they've been repeatedly doing this, and he showed you, that's why I wanted to show you that one clip, because he does show you several cases of runs with the instruments around that end point, and every time they lost their data. So something's happening. Now, it assesses their biggest strength and their biggest weakness. This is why else I love using AI as I have time, because we can really get a reasonable assessment of how much of these kind of claims should we believe in and accept, and what should we reject, etc. The ranch team is doing something much better than typical paranormal investigations. They're instrumenting the place, and that's important. That's cool. You have lidar, GPS, GNSS radar, optical cameras, infrared, RF spectrum measurements, drones, rockets, magnetometry, ground penetrating radar. Other systems are really being deployed. So there's 64 cameras on the ranch. So there's a continuous monitoring and outside technical collaborators. That's good, because that is remarkably similar to what serious academic UAP projects say researchers should do. The Galileo project argues for simultaneous, that is altogether, multimodal measurements using visible and infrared imaging, radar, RF, receivers, acoustic sensors, magnetic electric field measurements, etc. So the idea is, let's get as much data as possible. And that's the standard that Skinwalker Ranch needs to reach, and they are beginning to. And this is what is so, encouraging. But it's still deficient. Here's what we don't have from this video. We don't have the raw data yet. They didn't give it to us. We're seeing selected plots on television and listening to the investigators interpret them in this video. What they're trying to do is they're trying to get people excited about there is some kind of a reality. Something's happening at Skinwalker Ranch. That's what they're doing in this video. But we are not getting the raw GNSS logs. We're not getting the satellite geometry. We're not getting the receiver model and firmware. We're not getting the carrier to noise values. We're not getting the timestamps. We're not getting the IMU information. We're not getting the lidar calibration. We're not getting the raw point clouds. We're not getting the processing software settings. We're not getting the control site data. We're not getting the weather conditions. We're not getting the RF. Do you get the point? They left out all the data. So, I mean, we're hoping that they really do have all that data and they really can assess it and put it together in a report that we can all access. That is what is going to be key. Because until those exist publicly and are supplied to genuinely independent investigators, we cannot reproduce the results that they're talking about. And that is what we want to do. That way we can see, look, what we have here is a really spectacular anomaly. That's what we're looking for. So are these guys credible? Yes. Some of them absolutely have real technical credentials. Travis Taylor is not some random History Channel UFO expert. He is an electrical engineer, aerospace optical scientist with PhDs in optical science engineering and aerospace systems engineering, graduate degrees in physics and aerospace engineering and astronomy. He has extensive defense and aerospace work. His 2026 Space Symposium biography identifies him as a licensed professional engineer and lists those academic credentials, so he's real. So when he's discussing lasers and optics and sensors and radar or aerospace engineering, I would listen, yeah. But there's an important distinction here too. Expertise in aerospace engineering does not automatically make someone's interpretation of an anomalous data set automatically correct. I agree with that. But at least we've got an expert there. And Taylor does get somewhat speculative here. He jumps from portal to wormhole to bends in space-time and instantaneous time shifts. None of that has been established here. He's guessing in that regard. And they explicitly wonder whether an interstellar portal could explain the observations. Space-time curvature could account for them, they say. Well, that's a hypothesis. That's good. Let's test the hypothesis. But it isn't what the measurements presently demonstrate, and that's what's important. So they're mixing in, they're seeing what's happening, which is really getting them excited. Who can blame them, man? Something anomalous is going on there. And then they get carried away in some of their speculation. All right, yeah, we're human. It's not a crisis. Just so we understand that's what's happening and we can keep a check of that. So Pete Kelsey is also a legitimate remote sensing specialist. 25 years working with lidar and photogrammetry, drones, GPR and sonar, surveying industrial materials. So he's pretty good too. He's a credible operator. He does not equal exotic explanation is confirmed, however, just so we understand. He's credible, but that doesn't mean his conclusion's right. So they're credible people, yes. Credible instruments, generally, yes. Interesting observations, absolutely. portal demonstrated? No. Now here's this part that surprised me. The GPS failures are potentially more interesting than they sound, but they are also nowhere near proof of space-time distortion. That's pushing the envelope a little bit, and that's not going to work. GPS does behave very strangely when its radio environment becomes hostile. And this is recognized that GNSS failures is caused by interference or jamming and spoofing. Effects can include signal interruption, degradation, misleading positions, and complete loss of signal. Because that's important, since several Skinwalker displays apparently show exactly those classes of symptoms here. They have missing GPS. Well, interference can do that. They have the wrong GPS location. Well, spoofing and multipath can do that. See, all of these are perfectly natural explanations that we also have to bring into the analysis. That would be fair, right? And then the trajectory jumping underground, a bad GNSS solution can do that. So we may not be seeing something anomalous. Well, we're seeing something anomalous, but it may not have to do with portals or missing space-time or weird space-time curvature, etc. Those are pretty exotic claims if we have these more natural ones to also give those problems. So the question is, how do we sift through and see which it is? That's where the scientific testing comes in. But none of this requires warped space-time, just so that we're on the up and up. But here's where Skinwalker becomes interesting again, because if the failures really occurs repeatedly at one tiny geographic location rather than randomly across the ranch, then we need to explain why. Is it a fixed RF source? We don't know yet. Is it terrain-induced multipath? We have to test for that. Could it be a receiver software behavior? It could be. We would have to run a lot of tests to determine that one way or the other. Is it a transmitter? We don't know yet. So there's another wrinkle with the lidar as well. Aha, GPS fails. If we say aha, GPS fails and lidar sees the cone, two independent instruments, that's not necessarily the case. Airborne or drone lidar point clouds depend heavily on navigation information. USGS documentation describes georeferenced lidar as combining with laser return timing and scan angle with aircraft position and altitude. So, and that includes the GPS and IMU information. Calibration explicitly addresses the GPS IMU drift. So, we do have a GPS anomaly, but that could be because of a corrupted aircraft position or a malformed lidar point cloud, not necessarily warped space-time. You see how that comes into play. We have to take all possibilities into consideration on this. That's very interesting. What about the laser beam stopping at 2,000 feet? This part of the show's interpretation bothers me. They say that the vertical laser apparently terminated about the altitude of the cone and suggest you wouldn't see that unless it hit some sort of mass, but that's too strong. A visible laser beam in air is visible because light is being scattered toward the observer by various molecules and aerosols, dust, and other such type particles. NOAA actually uses that exact phenomenon scientifically in their atmospheric lidar measures. The laser light is actually scattered back from aerosols and atmospheric constituents at different altitudes for them to get their information. So an apparent abrupt change in laser visibility isn't necessarily a bad thing, and it doesn't mean there's a dome overhead. it could be changes in atmospheric scattering. So it could have something to do with camera sensitivity and aerosol distribution as well. They would have to do a lot more tests than just a couple of observations before proving there's an actual dome there, right? So a beam appearing to terminate at 2,000 feet is therefore not itself evidence that it struck a solid invisible object. But if they repeatedly measure a strong boundary, that would be cool. Especially if it's at the same XYZ coordinates under substantially different atmospheric conditions. That would be very helpful, because that would eliminate the atmospheric disturbances part of it, and it would help establish it as a dome. So, you know, I hope they're aware of something like that. And that, therefore, we would be back to something interesting. So, yeah, the time anomaly is not itself very good. There's been other people who have looked at the Skinwalker. So what is causing this? We don't know at this point. It could be a combination of GNSRF environmental instrument processing effects. Realistically, that's what it is, 50 to 70%. One unusual but conventional localized physical environmental phenomenon not yet identified. Yeah, that could be 20 to 30% possible. It could be a human-generated RF interference spoofing or experimental cross-inference, 5 to 15%. A genuinely newly but poorly understood physical phenomenon, kind of low, 2 to 10% really. And an actual traversable space-time portable wormhole, less than 1% for now. That is not the first suggestion you would jump to, simply because of the physical nature of and characterization of our instruments and how they function and how they go haywire in some of their measurements. Yeah, you have to take as much of that into account as you can and eliminate that as being the source of the anomaly, and that takes a lot of testing. But it looks like they have a lot of data that they've been testing, which is very good. That's very encouraging. So, yeah. But less than 1% does not mean Skinwalker Ranch is nonsense. Quite the contrary. I'd put substantially higher probability on something interesting is reproducing repeatable anomalous measurements in the vicinity of the triangle, and that's worth investigating. So that's part of what makes Skinwalker so exciting to investigate. It's also what makes investigating UAPs so very, very exciting as well. So that's pretty much, and then the experiment that would change everything. They need to get 3 separate independent agencies with the same kind of equipment they have, and don't tell them what they're looking for at all. Leave it blind and just say, run your tests around this mesa. Test them with lidar, test them with GPS, test them with GNSS, test them with IMU and whatever else you can. Test them with everything you can. And what do you see? Don't even tell them they're looking for anomalies. Don't tell them anything. Just let them go there and run the instruments. 3 independent, valid survey crews from 3 independent companies. And if all of those find the same anomalies on the mesa, now you've got something interesting to look into. That would be a very, very good thing for the Skinwalker group to do. Apparently, they've been testing Skinwalker Ranch now for quite a while, several years, in fact. So it's fun. It's interesting. Something real is happening. We just don't know what it is yet. But there is quirkiness involved, and it is a mystery. And I think it's fun investigating. So I'm really glad this came up in my feed. I don't know why it did. I have looked into Skinwalker, but I mean, that was like a year ago. And so all of a sudden this new information feed came in, and I thought, all right, good. That's cool. That's fun. It's fun to have mysteries and ideas to keep us occupied while the world goes to hell in a handbasket. So we don't want to go to hell in a handbasket if we can help it. So anyway, I will be back with more as I can, which is as often as I can. I hope you guys have a fantastic day and a great rest of the weekend. Go do some barbecue or something. That's what I'm going to do. All right. I'll talk to you soon.